Praise.
We're gonna group and approve.
Is this your stuff?
This is mine, but I don't know what all
That
this
is all
is.
your stuff.
This is the new stuff.
Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes.
Where's any of this stuff?
I did.
Gosh, my mouth is so dry.
Councilman, you ready?
This is going.
Is that mine?
It can be.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, I'm gonna call this meeting to order, general operations on Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Invocation. Commissioner Klein, would you mind saying a prayer for us?
Not at all, not at all. Heavenly Father, we thank you for a beautiful day today, cool and bright. We thank you for allowing us to be in a position of representing the citizens of this great county. We ask that you will endow us with wisdom tonight, that we will have great civil discourse and come up with the best solutions we can for the issues in front of us. We ask this all in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Have a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Commissioner Miller and Commissioner Jones, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes. Got a motion?
Motion.
Commissioner Klein, motion. Commissioner Moss, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recognition of the public. All right, call your name if you wouldn't mind coming here and saying your name and address for the record, and you will have 5 minutes. Mr. Jim Latimer.
Jim Latimer, 1578 Latimer Lane, Hendersonville, Tennessee. Thank you all for listening to us tonight. Thanks everyone who's trying to make something happen with this situation. First off, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Brown and the tremendous amount of money and the gift that he left the county and left it in trust in the county to honor his wishes. And I would like for us to try to go ahead and work something out where we can get that on. A little bit of history about the place, take y'all back down memory lane right here. What would it be like to set your feet on the deck of a wooden boat in 1636 and look west across that vast ocean? That's what Robert Latimer did at that year. He came to the North American continent at that time, not the United States. 3 generations later, his great-grandson, Jonathan Latimer, took up arms for the country in the Revolution. What would it be like to stand and look across the battlefield at Boston, at Long Island, at White Plains, at Brooklyn, at Saratoga, to look across the field at the most professional army in the world, the British Army, and to face them, and then come out ahead? What would it be like to be in command of the defense of your hometown, New London, Connecticut? You're away from the front on other business. You get a message that your former commander, Benedict Arnold, is burning the town of New London. And you come and you see the town's burned. At that point, all you can do is harass the English soldiers and the Hessians as they're loading back onto the boat and going away. After the Revolution, the Latimers decided to look west again. They moved from Connecticut through the wilderness to the Tennessee frontier. They established their home there. Charles Latimer built that house on the property out there. And what must it have been like for Jonathan, as a father, making it through the Revolution, his son served with him, to get here to Tennessee and then hear that one of your sons has been surrounded by a large hostile force of Native Americans trying to destroy the city of Nashville. They were able to hold that force off and turn them back. What must it have been like to be a little bit later find out that your youngest son, Nathan, was killed at the Battle of Rock Island by the same group of Indians in their retreat? We do not own the property. It was in the family for over 100 years. We have an interest in it as historical property and a family property. Now, to say that we have no interest in it would be like saying that the heirs to Monticello or Mount Vernon have no interest in that home. just because it passed out of family hands, we know who built it. We know the history behind the property, and we would love to see it preserved. Now, I've seen some things posted online about the Latimer family willy-nilly filing suit, in Sumner County on property of land. If you go back and look at that lawsuit, it's not filed by any members of this Latimer family. It's a totally different family, a totally different group of land, and has nothing to do with us or that property. We don't want the money, we don't want the land, we just want the house preserved in honor of Mr. Brown's wishes. I mean, he left a tremendous gift. We need to honor that gift and do what's expected of us. And I appreciate y'all listening to me. Thank you.
All right, next up is Lee Monitor. If you can come up and state your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes, Lee.
Great. My name is Lee Monitor. I'm the niece of William Brown and Martha Brown. My aunt was Martha. I spent many delightful Christmases, Thanksgivings at the Brown house that we all know and are talking about. I am so thrilled to be here tonight, to be able to talk to you guys, tell you a little bit about some perspective of the Brown house in recent years and what we know. Mr. Brown and Mrs. Brown, they were very close to me. I talked to Mr. Brown right in the year before he died. We went and visited him at the house. We visited him a bunch before that, and when Martha died, we went to Martha's funeral. It's really important to note that they cared a lot about the house. They did a lot of things to the house. They preserved the land. We just want to make sure that the house gets restored. That's our entire perspective. We just want to see it put back in place, and so that people can appreciate it, use it. I know the Latimers have some great ideas on how to use the house, which we're also excited about. Just want to see that project get moving. So thank you guys for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Tommy Latimer. State your name and address for the record. You got the drill. Thank you.
Thomas Latimer, 264 Esther Road, Portland. Jimmy told you most of the things about the Latimer family. Colonel Johnson was colonel of the 3rd Regiment of Connecticut Militia. He had 4 sons that fought in the Revolution. Had a 5th son that was a fifer. He was too young to fight, but he did serve. So Charles, the one that built the house, was the youngest one that served besides the fifer. I want to speak a little bit on behalf of Mr. Brown. We became friends in 97 or 98, about 20 years. Of course, Miss Martha died several years before Mr. Brown did. We talked several times about the house. I suggested one time that he put it on the historical register. He said, no, I'm not gonna have somebody come in and tell me when to sweep the floor or run the vacuum. And I understand that. I'm a widower, so I understand what he's talking about. But he told me that he was going to give the house, this was before he made a deed, will, or anything. He was going to give it to the school board, and they were going to preserve the house. Well, I went and talked to Dr. Phillips, and he told me the same thing. The deal that Mr. Brown had, I'll give you 150 acres, you preserve the house. And it's been 8 years since he died. So please preserve the house. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Latimer. All right, Mr. Mike McClard.
Michael Clark, 102 Tioga Trail, Hendersonville. I'm not a Latimer. I'm not kin to the Latimers. I'm nor the Browns. We lived right next to the property. Sorry? Sorry. It doesn't take much for me to lose my train of thought, and I just derailed there. But, anyway, there is so much history in that house. I wish I could remember everything I heard Mr. Jim and Mr. Tommy say over the past few months about the history. I mean, the McClard history is we had 3 brothers that were horse thieves and they came to America so they wouldn't get hung. That's pretty much our history. So I wish my family had history like that. But please, I know it's been almost, I think I looked at the calendar today, it's been almost 2 months since Mr. Mayor sent the paperwork owed to them. Hopefully there'll be an answer soon. But if everything works the way it's supposed to, it really needs to be some type of plan set up, and I assume there'll be a committee. If there's any citizens on it, I think Mr. Jim would be a great one to be on it. And any of the Browns that want to be on that as well, or from the Brown family. But it just needs to get pushed on down the road a little bit and get it started. I mean, it's not, that house is not getting any younger. I did see the pictures that Mr. Shamrock put together, and it, to be honest, in better condition inside than I thought it was going to be. I really thought it was probably leaking and it was rotted out, but it's not. It looks like it's in good shape. I'm glad to find out we'd asked Mr. Shamrock, I think Mr. Mansfield did, and it does have insurance on it. So if anything happens to it, you know, at least there's something to fall back on there. But please put some thought into it when this all gets transferred over and the monies are there, and let's try to make it. There's so much history there, and I think all the local schools in the area, I mean, they're surrounding it basically, you know, could learn so much from that. I mean, you know, I don't know if they still teach American history in school. It was always my favorite subject. But there's just so much history that field trips and things like that could be happening there. Festivals in the spring and things like that could utilize it, how some people could see it for how it was 200 years ago, or even older. But anyway, y'all put some thought into it, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McClure. This is Laura Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Laura Baker, 424 A.B. Wade Road. It was a month ago tomorrow that Mr. Mayor made a call to Vanguard. 7 of us were in the room during that call, and a member of the media was on the phone. As far as I know, there's been absolutely no progress. I would think that the mayor would probably think that he is operating in good faith with Vanguard, following up repeatedly since then. I suggest it's time for us to take legal action against Vanguard. Unless the mayor disputes that he's been operating in good faith, they're holding our money hostage. We have not been able to get at this money. It's ridiculous. It's not their money, it's our money. If there are trustees, he's got all the paperwork, he's submitted it. What are we waiting for? So unless the mayor doesn't think that's not true, I mean, they haven't told him anything else that they need from him, so I don't understand why this is not done yet. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I'll make this real quick because I know we're running late. The second thing is about the Children Are People and the house, the building over there and all that. I'm not exactly sure, and so I don't like getting ahead of ourselves, whether this is going to be a lease agreement with the Children Are People group or a sale. All I would suggest that I would encourage at this point a lease, unless we consider a fair market price for the building, because this is taxpayer money. We either need to get the fair market value for it, or if we have a really good use for something that does benefit the community as a whole, then I think we'll look at a lease if we aren't going to try to get the fair market value and just designate an entity to use that building. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes public comment. All right. For the chairman, I did want to clarify, appreciate Mr. Owens Dustin for sending a clarification. If you look on pages 24 through 29 about the procurement policy, and those things I guess incorrectly given in this committee last month, Commissioner Klein had wanted to bring forward basically an ask between $1,000 and $2,000 to get started on the Brown House, and that in your packet he sent that email out to clarify that we could have done that, and that purchases under $10,000 do not require bids or quotes. And so just want to clear that for the committee and let you know that he did send that correction based on what was told last month and was incorrectly shared on social media. So I also have some good news to report as far as the Upper Station Camp Creek cleanout on Highway 25. Appreciate Fox 17 News doing a story on that and doing some investigating. They helped tip the needle and push TDEC and TDOT into taking action on to clean out that northeast portion of the creek that we've been asking for and that was getting continually denied in the budget committee for some reason. They are now going to do that themselves, just like they did the south. So it's great for the citizens. They said that they would get that started within the month. So very happy to hear that they're going to do that, and that's something that we don't have to have on our plate or argue about. But I'm just very thankful to TDOT and TDEC and also to Fox 17 for covering this and bringing awareness and kind of pushing the on. TDOT and TDEC are kind of like CSX. You don't tell them what to do, or they just kind of tell you what they're going to do when they're going to do it. So very surprised, very happy for citizens there that in that area impacted by the debris in the creek that was causing a lot of these issues, so that I think we can hopefully alleviate some of that pressure and strain. So that is, just wanted to add that to my report. So good news. So thank you, Commissioner Klein and Commissioner Jones, for your hard work and persistence on this and pushing this. And I know we've met out there and looked at things during the rains and been in our muck boots and our rain jackets, just observing water patterns for hours. So I'm glad to not have to do that anymore, at least not in the near future. All right, any questions on those two items, or the procurement policy or the TDOT cleanout? All right, moving along, report of the Finance Director, Capital Projects and Arbor Project update. Mr. Shamrock, the floor is yours.
Well, if you guys haven't noticed, the archive route looks substantially different than it did before. It started on the 3rd. We got a change order to push it out to the 10th. They had a longer lead time on the coping, which is why if you drive by right now, it's still nailed down at the top. But that metal is supposed to be in this week sometime, and they're supposed to be done with it by next Monday. So that's what that is. Westmoreland EMS, Marshall's been working with the state and local fire marshal. The final zoning's complete, and he's expecting the building permit in the next 2 to 3 weeks. For the Oak Grove Fire Department, they've already started construction. They started working on the building pad here this past week. For the Brown House, we still have not received any funds, but I did talk with Chris. I got his official quote and everything for the exploratory, removing the HVAC and the carpet and the first floor walls to get a better idea of what we're looking at. So whenever we get that, we can action on that a little bit quicker. Franklin Street and the stormwater project, we only had one bidder. It was LNG Construction. I had a meeting today with the engineer. Everything looked good on that, so I should have a notice of award to them sometime this week, and we'll start to move forward as far as contract goes with them. For the courtroom, good news, bad news. Bad news is the previous architect didn't want to move forward with the project. However, I did talk with Wendell, and I got all the plans, specs, everything, and I got a letter from him saying that we can use them. So I have everything. We're working on finding an architect that will allow us to use said plans and specs from somebody else.
Well, it's a build to print job.
Let's wait for him to finish and we'll go back for questions.
For the Portland, Westmoreland swing stuff, me and the consultant had done an internal audit last week. We found some minor paperwork things that needed to be done. They had to update their federal grant risk assessment and get a screenshot of the SAM.gov proving that companies that they're using aren't debarred or things like that. So small minor things before the state gets in there and audits them. So we're working on getting them all squared away before anything happens there. the Henderson Health Department remodel. They haven't done anything yet. We have a meeting on the 6th, so we're gonna go over everything during that time, and I think David's scheduled to be on that as well. So I'll learn more about where they're at and what we're gonna be doing going
It's
forward
Thursday
there.
morning.
The Hendersonville Library and the maintenance. So I spent probably a whole day going through all of our past transactions, and there's an attachment on the back in this packet of the breakdown of the maintenance all the way back to 2017 was the latest one I found. But it ended up being just over $50,000. So technically Hendersonville would owe a little over $25,000 to us. I talked with Mr. Eric the other day about this, just to get your thoughts on reaching out to Hendersonville's mayor, just to kind of move forward with that.
Oh, you're asking for my input?
I was just gonna wait for, if we can,
Okay.
they can
Well, go ahead.
discuss, or we can finish, I was gonna finish the report.
Okay, I'll just
Come back to it.
We're almost done. The TDET, or the broadband grant that we're working with, we're still in the process of drafting this RFP. The only issue that we've ran into is we got told to hold off on it just for a minute, because on Wednesday of this week, the state is actually having a meeting with everybody and going over updates that they want to put, because we're going to be revising our budget for it and where money's allocated inside the grant itself, not the total for the grant. So they told us to hold off on that until after Wednesday, so we'll know more about the state changes on Wednesday about that, and then we'll move forward with that RFP. For the Hollows drainage, they're still working on the relocation of the utilities and installing the new service lines. Marshall could not give me an estimated completion date because they're still waiting on all the relocation, but after the relocation's done, they have 9 months to finish. So as soon as that relocation's done, their clock will start ticking pretty hard. As far as the old courthouse and the inventory in Worley, I kind of put these together just so it was all together. The inventory has not been done. In the middle of this past month, the finance department's been fighting the Title VI over the past couple weeks and getting in compliance with that for the county due to some things happened with previous employees leaving and trying to get the county back where it needs to be. So it's kind of been on the back burner. After talking with David and Dustin, we felt that it was more of a mayor's office and the maintenance, since they handle all the buildings. And as far as the water leak, I talked with one of the people at the utility district. They did reach out to an accounts payable coordinator via email and voicemail, and we were told that that was passed along to the mayor's office. We were credited $4,947 for the leak, which I have that on the back as well, so you guys can see that. And then from, I think it was December, off the top of my head, all the contact information was officially changed over to the mayor's office. As far as the Title VI, we've taken over all the duties for Title VI. I've been designated as the coordinator, so we've been working on getting the county in compliance as far as everything goes. Working on writing the new Title VI policy for the county. And then I have my TDOT certification training on the 19th. And just a reminder for the Children and People building and that whole situation, we have a special call meeting on the 13th at 5 p.m. And I don't have anything else unless you guys have questions.
All right, motion to discuss.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, anybody have a question on a specific item? Commissioner Klein.
Scott, the Franklin storm drain,
Yes, sir.
do we have a starting date?
I do not yet.
Okay.
I probably won't have one until I tie, the plan is to get them under contract, get a pre-construction meeting going with Gallatin and everybody in play here to figure out that whole timeline.
See. And on the old
We see it's more likely needs to be the mayor because we don't really have the manpower right now to do it.
I mean, I'll just say,
He already
Mr. Mayor
did it.
last month said that it
It's
already been
already been
done,
done.
so I'm confused. You told us the meeting was complete.
Yeah, it was not done, I was mistaken.
Is that something that the maintenance guys can do, or do you need somebody?
It'll be tight for them to do it,
Okay.
but, I mean, you know, we'll work on it. Yeah, I don't have any problem with that.
Okay.
Commissioner Jones?
You done, David?
Yeah, I'm done.
Just two questions real quick. You seem to think it may be difficult to find a contractor that would be able to do a build-to-print job with the build-out of the new courthouse. Is that what you were implying, or just
not
haven't got
saying-
there yet? Like,
So David's been working, he's supposed to reach out to the architect workshop, I believe, is who he said at first. Just my personal perspective, if I'm an architect, I don't know how I'd feel about somebody else's plans. That's just me.
why do we have to use the architect workshop when
We
it's already
don't.
been built? It's already been
We're gonna reach out
designed.
to figure out what our best option is.
Should we not just send this out to a contractor to build, like the architect work's done, right? Like, this is just contracting somebody that knows how to put hammer and nails to the project, because this is a build-to-print job. It should be pretty straightforward without the need to go to any architect. They got plans and prints.
So you're saying without using like an architect?
Yeah,
at
the
all,
architect
just
work's
using
been
a
done, right?
construction company? I don't know if we can do that technically according to our purchasing stuff.
Well, we're not making structural changes, right? Or-
To his point, you're gonna hold him accountable for the work he does on plans he had no party to. So that's, I think, the point he's trying to make here. It may be difficult because nobody wants to be held to the standard of an architectural document that they didn't make themselves.
I mean, but builders don't make architectural documents. I mean, if you're giving it off to a construction crew or to a builder to do this out, build this out in an existing facility, I don't understand.
Because there could be some liability with the architectural setup that the contractor's not gonna be aware of or won't make itself known till later.
But why would liability still leave from the original architect who
Yeah,
designed it?
they,
Because they're not building it out, and they could, I mean, any number of defenses, they could say they, on a subsequent inspection of the place would have revealed this. I'm just playing devil's advocate on somebody sticking to another person's plans.
Chairman Hunt, thank you.
I was just going to say that in the school system, we often would duplicate, not often, but we have duplicated plans. For instance, Walker Valley High School near Chattanooga and Station Camp High School use another architect's plans. You will have to pay something to the architect that drew those plans up, even though he's given permission to use them. That's what we always had to do. We had to pay a certain percentage to duplicate an architect's plan. But
I think in this case, we're not having to pay, correct, but it's just the fact that people don't want to, I guess, if I'm understanding kind of the transfer, the point is that we might have to pay a new architect to look at these plans and approve them. Is that what
no,
you're
if
intoning?
we used, and this architect may have, as you say, he may have chosen not to charge anything. I can't imagine.
Well, that's what he
that.
said in the report. I mean,
But
Yeah, they give us full.
they
rights
just
and
gave
coverage.
them outright.
Yeah, there's no charge.
Okay, well then forget what I said, because on occasion, I can't imagine him, that's bad business, but there is a certain percentage, 1 or 2%, 3%, that usually an architect will charge to duplicate their plan.
Yeah, I guess it's free of charge, so it's just Commissioner Jones, or
That-
Commissioner Klein. you're next.
Yeah, unless there's a statutory law with the state, and there could be, you know, because of the cost of the project or whatever. But you're right, that that space is exactly the same size as two of the three courtrooms on that floor. All things being equal, we're talking about a fit out of a room, nothing structural, very little electrical or heating and air conditioning. It's just distribution of the HVAC and distribution of the electrical. I am sure that we don't need a full-blown design.
No.
I'm certain of that. And I'm sure that Mr. Shamrock will figure out in pretty short order that we could probably have an architect that will sign off on a plan, because he's not designing it, he's just signing off and warranting to the liability that Mr. Sittler's talking about. This should be a much less costly room to build, and because we're just talking about decorating it. We're talking about wallpaper, doors, carpeting, benches, and that kind of stuff. So I will spend a little time with Mr. Shamrock because we've got some other things to go over as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And then if we have to get David involved, David Lying will do that. And of course, if we have to get Eric Sittler. We're not going to do anything against the law, but we want to do it as cost effective for the people as possible.
Commissioner Jones?
The reason why I brought that up is because a lot of times, from what I've seen in the past, we let the vendor guide us in our decision-making process, and that is not good practice. Industry standards for industrial, at least anyway, build to print, you sell somebody your designs and you sell somebody a product, but those designs, you put your guarantee on those designs. That, like,
Your license stamp.
yeah, and so anything that's built to those standards, now if it was deemed that the build out was incorrect to prints, the builder would be liable for that. But if it's built to print and it fails, we've already got permission from the person that designed it to say we can use those. So there's no reason not to use those and just seek out somebody to construct what's already on paper. I'm giving this guidance just so we can give direction to Scott to go forward and not just take the vendors leading by this. We need to drive what we expect out of it, and then of course investigate if there's any legal differences between what I've experienced in the industry I work in versus construction. But I don't want us to assume that we have to pay for another architect and even for another architect to even look at it. If they put their stamp of approval on those things and they stand behind those designs, whether it's their build or somebody else's build, the build can be scrutinized by another builder, but the design stands on its own.
Commissioner Janelle?
I have a question. Did the architect give you a letter of approval to use did he give you actual writing?
Yes, ma'am.
A letter?
I've got it all.
And then the plans are already stamped and ready to go?
Yep.
I mean, my husband's an engineer and he's designed oil refineries and sent, presented them and gave the design work to the country that wants to build it. And then if they buy it, which is what we're doing, we bought those plans because we paid all that money for that. So we bought the plans, we bought the stamp. If we want to use it, we should be allowed to use it. It's just the same thing. If the country doesn't want to build the refinery, then it's their plans and they can market it whoever. But I don't understand why we would have to get another architect, because that guy is he's provided those and he's allowed it and he stamped it, right? It's completely stamped. I don't see a reason to get another architect.
Commissioner Jones?
And to Scott's defense, he may be talking about things that he might encounter going forward. I just want to make sure that we shouldn't expect to have to pay for another architect. welcoming whatever findings you bring on, but don't think that we should have to. So.
Is there any other item for us? There's no action item for us on this just a report? So what are next steps for you, Scott? Or is there anything you need from us on this? Okay.
I have one question on another item.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I do too. So, all right, go ahead, Tim.
Mine's quick. What is your TDOT training for?
It's for the Title VI certification.
Oh, really?
I've already got my TDEC certification. I have to have the TDOT certification. I think there's a mental health services certification. I have the Title VI through all of it.
So it's all the state entities that you work with to comply with all of them. Okay, gotcha.
Hendersonville Library Maintenance. Mr. Law Director, did you want to speak to that?
We discussed that, and he was asking me for some direction on maybe getting with the city of Hendersonville and some points of contact, and I brought him up to speed with how we went through, I believe, their budget committee and how unreceptive they were to any of our offers. So after having that conversation, I'd suggested that it be tabled here as to where you want him to go next as far as the expenses that have been spent.
I know last month, just looking at our minutes on page 5, and it was I moved second by Commissioner Jones to ask the Finance Department to investigate any major capital project costs and invoice the city of Henderson for 50% less payment received. And so I appreciate you looking forward to that, spending the time to figure out this, I guess, is an outstanding balance on things that we have paid that should have been paid by the city of Hendersonville as joint owners, correct? I mean, as major.
That's my interpretation,
Okay.
yes.
I mean, our motion still stands of sending an invoice, but I don't,
Okay.
I mean, that's what we made the motion last month. I don't think anything's changed on that. Any other discussion, questions? So since there's a motion from last month, Commissioner Klein?
The meeting on the 13th, is it 5 or 5:30?
I have 5.
5 o'clock.
Is it 5 o'clock? Okay. I had 5:30.
Speaking on that meeting, I'm have an unexpected business trip. I won't be here. Commissioner Miller, I think you informed me you're going to be out of town. Is anybody else? I won't be there, neither Commissioner Miller for that joint meeting, but will the rest of you guys be there for the joint meeting? So let's make sure we have a quorum.
Mhm.
Okay, you can let Dustin know that. I think we're good to go. All right, any other items, questions about the report of the Finance Director? Appreciate you getting all this together, Scott. Thank you so much. All right, report of the county mayor.
All right, well, I am excited and relieved to report that at 3:30 today, I got a phone call and I am now on the trustees count. Along with Scott. Unfortunately, I was on hold till 4:15 to transfer the money, so I will start that process tomorrow.
Okay,
The 500,000 and interest. So I will work on that process tomorrow.
will you be working with David Lawing on that transfer
Well,
process? Or
it'll come in the form of a check, and that check will be handed over to
Okay, perfect. So,
Yeah.
awesome. If you wouldn't mind, maybe emailing us or responding to Mr. McClart's email tomorrow. I guess his last email I saw, until I hadn't had a chance to read this, I saw on my phone in the meetings. That's good news. So, fantastic. Which brings us to, anything else, Mr. Mayor? Anything else?
No, that's all.
Brings us to old business, Latimer House for restoration. Do you have a motion for discussion?
Motion to discuss.
Second by Commissioner Klein on this, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. First bullet point, obviously, is we just got an update on the status of the transfer. You should have a handout from the, I guess, a PDF from the email that the law director sent out around 3:50 p.m. With that information from Vanguard. So we can get you back in a minute. We can have, so that is good news. I did want to, I guess, open it up also. Scott, you had mentioned you did speak with Century Renovations, Chris Coker from Century Renovations. That's on your report. We also have information in the packet from Commissioner Klein when you guys met back in January to inspect the building and with this contractor that does renovations, and Commissioner Klein had also gotten a printout of his kind of like work history resume as an addendum. Should be in all your desks as well, of your spots. Basically, I know last month we've been frustrated for a long time on this process, but it seems like we've got a price to start the process. Correct me, I'll give you the full, Commissioner Klein, on it's this exploratory, you gotta rip everything out, get it to somebody's gotta do it regardless of what happens, to then we can actually get a true quote price estimate plan to move forward, to present to Finance Department, to vet it according to our policy, and then come back to this committee once that's happened. So, does that sound about right?
Yeah, what Chris said he will do is he'll climb underneath, he'll determine what is the original structure and what were addendums, and try to age the second section. He'll tear out the carpet, which we don't want in there anyway. He'll pull off paneling and a lot of the garbage that we would never want to stay there. He would not remove the brick. None of that is included. And so then he will give us an assessment of what he knows to be fact about the building, as much as can be possibly determined. And then at that point, he'll be waiting on us, and we'll have to decide what we're gonna do with the building, how far we're going to take it back to original, what we're gonna use it for, because what we decide, and we might want to decide that with many of the people in the audience tonight, that'll determine how he would create his proposal and contract for the work to do, what the costs would be. What we want to do with the building will determine everything about what he does to it, if he is to do it.
Well, I guess I'll make a couple of comments there. First, we have a first step. We've got to do something like this to figure it out.
Right.
So the goal is to do something like, whatever the tear out, this minimal pricing is, to get the foundation so we can get estimates and choices. But what we would be looking to his company, for example, on this, is to provide an estimate or a bid on options of like, here's option A, here's option B, here's option C. This isn't like a vote by committee at this point. This is we're not discussing that yet, and it's not ripe. It's not, because we need to know what the options are and what the cost estimates are. Is this $100,000? Is this $250,000? Is this $500,000? Is this $750,000? We don't know.
Yeah.
For each item to just, because that $500,000 is for that house.
Right.
And to establish that house as the centerpiece for a park.
Okay.
It'd be a park bench with, an acre. Doesn't designate what that is, but like, we know the money is for the renovation of the house. We know it's going to be $500,000 or more for that potentially, to do that. So maybe less, I don't know. But what I would recommend that this committee do tonight is to move this forward to budget with this cost estimate that we have, that we can do. And so he can go ahead and start on the work as soon as possible, because that follows our procurement process, and we just need to get the funds appropriated. I don't think that citizens will be very happy if the budget committee delays on this, or the commission, since we've been talking about this for a year and a half now, and 8 months actively. So
I'll make that motion. To send it to budget.
we have a motion by Commissioner
I'll
Miller.
second it for discussion.
A second. Well, we're already in discussion. This is a motion to approve to send this on the budget.
I'll second, but I want to ask a question too. Am I missing a page? Is the cost association on this page, or is it in the package?
So in the capital projects report, it has it. It's
Okay,
also in
okay.
the packet.
Okay.
On the pages 30 to 45, it's there as well, in the packet. But Scott has provided a nice, easy breakdown on that capital project report. If you'll look at that, Tim, the same night.
And that's all we're voting on, move the budget, is just that.
Scott, your part.
Yes.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, to move forward with remove all carpet wall paneling on the first floor of the original portion of the house.
It's a remediation, basically.
Remove the existing HVAC unit, lines associated unit, to do this work. To move forward with this, so that we can then get him to give us a quote
Right.
for this process.
Because this has to be done regardless.
Mhm.
Because obviously, once we get that estimate, that's when we'll have to put this out to bid and, go through that process through finance. So, this is just the first step, just having a contractor come in there and just remediate, get this stuff foundational. So the motion is to move this to budget, to get the money appropriated so he can get started immediately. Are there any questions? All right. Anything else on the Latimer Brown House before we take?
Do you still want this on old business, or we?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay.
Always. Always.
Had to ask.
Stop asking that
Well, we have
question.
to vote to move it forward to budget, right?
He's getting
We are
ready.
voting to move forward this estimate from Century Renovations to budget in the amount of $2,015.
Yes.
So that he then can come back to us with options for estimates to formulate a plan that we can then discuss hopefully next month. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise in Cottontail. Again. So, any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We will keep under old business. All right, discussion of the vacated Gallatin Square Old Courthouse, pages 46 through 47. We kind of already touched on that during report of the finance director, and the county mayor said that they would do an inventory of all the stuff in it so that we can then put it on Gov Deals. Motion for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones,
Second.
second by Commissioner Klein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Commissioner Jones.
So do we have a timeline for that? What's the next step after inventory is done? Like, where's the discussion go from there?
We don't have a timeline. We're just basically starting the process of, instead of just sitting there and doing nothing, this is to get something going, because this is a building that's just sitting there. And what do we don't know what we're gonna do with it yet, but this is baby steps. We're just keeping it going.
Can I ask the mayor a question? Like, do you think it'll be done within the next month, by next meeting, the inventory be done? Or do you project 2 meetings? You said they're kind of thinly
It'll take a few
staffed.
months to do that. But what I'd like to do is do an inventory, run it through the usual Gov Deal process.
That's what the goal is.
Where it goes on for other offices to look at it first, and then Gov Deals after that.
That's
Would be my goal.
well, that's what the stated goal was a month ago. That's not changed. So I mean, that the goal of the inventory is to then put it on Gov Deals or put it on or
Try to
follow
get
our
it out
policy
here.
of any interdepartmental use that's needed, and then put it on Gov Deals. But it has to have the inventory first. So thank you, County Mayor, for.
Are we gonna run it through the county surplus system first?
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
Okay.
So, let's go ahead and make a motion for the county mayor to inventory that and to put it on the surplus.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We will,
Can we take this off
I'm
the
gonna,
agenda, but put it on for like a couple months from now or something? Or what's best? Just to kind of get a timeline when we can revisit it.
tell you what, I'll make a note. How about, do you want to make a motion to put this on the agenda for May?
Yeah. That's my motion.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Jones and a second by Commissioner Genome to move the discussion on this and a follow-up on the inventory process and the county surplus listings, then to Gov Deals in that May meeting. So we will remove from old business and put under new business.
You gonna take a vote?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Discussion, vacated Gallatin Square Old Courthouse, 100 Public Square water leak. I don't think we need a discussion. Mr. Shamrock did provide. It's also in our document. I did get that from the finance department as well. So you have it in this packet, and Mr. Shamrock's that we did get almost $5,000 back from the city of Gallatin for that water leak, which is good news. I'm very glad to hear that. And I don't think there's anything else to discuss on this one. So without objection, I'm going to just remove this from the agenda. All right, we're gonna remove. All right, item D, discussion, Millersville EMS station reconfiguration status. Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Miller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Klein. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, anybody want to get in the queue on this one? Commissioner Klein?
I've been through the contract, and I'm a little confused about it, or the contract that has been proposed by Architect Workshop. It looks to me like what is being proposed here is a concept in the area. It's just a couple of pages long, but it says deliverable concept diagrams and probable cost estimate. And that's for that and doing the due diligence. And one of the things that he points out in here is 4 sleeping quarters, and we have 2, and I believe that's all we were going to do was keep 2 sleeping quarters. I never heard anything about 4 sleeping quarters. But the services he is to provide is review laws and project requirements, prepare design documents, but down below he talks about concept documents, and consisting of drawings and other documents appropriate for the project, and request the owner's approval. Code analysis of the existing structure and concept diagrams. So what this document, I believe, is, and anybody can correct me if they think I'm wrong, this is a request of $5,000 to do his due diligence. The other architect that I had look at the project already did this for free, and he provided us with a proposal to design 2 legal sleeping quarters and everything that else would have to happen for, I forget, it was $13,000 and change.
That starts on page 59 when you're referring to.
Right. So these 2 things are very, they're apples and oranges. They're the total compensation for a complete architectural design by Mr. Hood is $13,200. The concept design by Architect Workshop is $5,000. So, and I have to say that at least in the private industry, you would never pay, a developer would never pay for this. This is one of those things that an architect does. It's part of doing business. Is he researches what has to be done. He does all his due diligence, and then he would come back with a proposal to design a full-blown architectural drawing that he would run through city permit process and all of those things. So I just wanted to point out that as I'm understanding, these are 2 totally different documents. This is a due diligence or basically a concept design. And this is a full-blown architectural design. This one's $5,000. He already did this for free, and he's giving us a price for that. So I don't know where we're at in the process. If this has already been contracted, if it has, it's a shame because it's $5,000 we didn't need to spend. So that's my analysis of the two documents.
Commissioner Jones?
I read through it also, and I may, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm oversimplifying this, but the one from the Architect Workshop looks like it's his quote to bid. Like, this is what I'm going to charge you to give you a bid on this. And that's, like Commissioner Klein was saying, that's the cost of doing business. You usually have guys that are, we call them applications engineers, that do all of this work, finding out the codes and how they need to bid it and everything, and that's part of the bid. It's not, I'm gonna charge you to do all this research, whether or not you use my stuff or not, you're out this much money. That's not the way it goes. Maybe that's the way it goes when you're doing business with government, but that's not the way it's supposed to go. But that's why I'm saying we cannot let these vendors lead us around. We have to go in like we know what we're doing. And when we have one vendor that's already doing all the work on the front end for nothing, that proves that is the industry standard does reign true through construction as well as industrial work. I don't understand why we would pay somebody to give us a bid.
Mr. Mayor, can you explain the difference on why
We'll have the architect workshop here next month, have all the package put together and have them here to answer your questions.
I don't want a package yet, because I don't want to pay for nothing yet.
Why are we?
Well, I'll go ahead and stop you. The county commission did approve to appropriate $20,000 for getting,
A full design.
yeah,
I
that was
mean,
my understanding.
if Architect Workshop is gonna provide a full design for $5,000, that's great. But if it's just a concept design and then he will charge architectural fees on top of it for a full design, that's a different animal.
Mr. Mayor, do you know the intent of the architect workshop?
Yeah, I'll have to ask them, but we'll have them here next month. Yeah, they just weren't able to make it here tonight, and we didn't have everything put together in the committee. So I want to have all the information ready for you.
Okay.
Commissioner Jones?
Will it be too late at that point to change course? Because here we go again.
Not to my knowledge. I mean, we only approved that $20,000. That was for that one time. And anything else moving forward, this committee would have to approve any designs or reject them. Ask for modifications to come under budget, according to our policy.
So Commissioner Klein brought up the fact that there was a difference in the scope of work a little bit with this, with regards to like the bathrooms or the sleeping quarters.
Yeah,
Was it the sleeping quarters?
it says 4 sleeping quarters.
And so our design is already different than what the need determined was. So we're going to be presented a package that may be something more than we need, but we've already paid for it, so we might as well do it. And that's what I'm hesitant about. That's why I'm questioning this. We're gonna get a package that we're not gonna be able to alter.
That's not true, I don't think, no.
No, what we'll do is, they will present an industry standard, okay? Y'all will make the decision if you want to accept that or not. I mean, you're not bound by anything that comes out of that report.
But we pay for it.
I guess the unfortunate part is to Commissioner Klein's point, is that I feel like we're wasting taxpayer money, and you spend $5,000 to tell us something we already know the answer to for free, and that we already have an estimate for that taxpayers can see for doing, designing out to satisfy the need, because this really came about because 20 years nobody had a problem with EMS being in that building. All of a sudden it just became a problem politically, and so here we are. Now the solution is pretty simple, fix it minimally so it can keep operating instead of just being silly about it. But I mean, it's kind of like Mo Taylor said, you can go to pole barn for $20,000. You can go to pole barn with an architect and an engineer for $200,000. And so we're trying to, I can see why they call it architect workshop, because I think there's a lot of extra hands in there that might not need to be compared to, looking at a different architect, person, but a professional. I'm just looking at the costs. I mean, I understand the concerns. I don't understand the $5,000 to give us what we've already got for free that satisfies the need based on what this committee's already established. Saying here's the problem, here's how to fix it. We need an estimate on it, which we've already gotten. But then they're coming over and saying something different. So I mean, we're not looking to, I've heard it said before. I don't know what it was applied to, if it's this, but we're not looking to spend $250,000 on plans from the architect's workshop to renovate the Millersville Fire Hall. So I hope they don't come back with that. Commissioner Jones.
If the money's already been appropriated up to $20,000 and it's already been spent, and they're going to come with a package next month I guess my question to the mayor is, will we have an option at that point to de-scope it or alter it in any way, and it's not gonna cost extra to go back and redesign? That's where we all need to be looking, because we
So,
can't recoup the money spent and
Our
already
policy
appropriated.
that we passed, the finance department outlined for us, on the initial concept of project, item D, the general operations committee will amend the conceptual plan if necessary, including any potential options, alternatives to decrease the cost of the final project if required. Well, you've already got alternative costs, alternative plans in this packet. It's been in the packet for 3 or 4 months now. So just to answer your question, I mean, we'll be able to make a decision, but I mean, I hate that we waste taxpayer money on it unnecessarily, but
So do you have to pay them $5,000 to come next week to tell you what they think they might wanna do?
I don't know, the money's been appropriated to the county mayors, and so that would be up to him for working with the finance department to cut a PO on that.
That's what I'm just
Well,
asking.
she's asking.
Yeah.
I'd
County
like
Mayor,
to
I
know.
guess Commissioner Junong is addressing your question. I don't know if you,
Have-
would you mind restating the question, Commissioner Junong?
My question is, are we paying them $5,000 to come here next time to talk about what they wanna do if they do it?
No, well, we're paying them to present the plan to you.
So they're gonna, when they come, they're gonna present, we're gonna pay them $5,000 to present? But these
It's already
people,
done.
these people are paying for free?
It also says in services on the second page, attendance at county commission meetings will be invoiced as additional services.
Oh, wow.
So when he comes next
They will
month,
not charge for coming next month.
they
You
won't?
don't
Okay.
know. So, why are we have to use one versus, I don't understand why there's a,
Well, the mayor's, I think you signed a purchase order already, right?
Yes, yeah, we've secured their services.
without, what did you like?
Giving an 8-year-old a check.
The county commission approved this back in November, $20,000. The county mayor engaged an architect. There's nothing you can do.
That's,
So you
Mr.
just-
Chairman, that's why I said what's done is done.
As
We
far
need
as-
to make sure that we have the option to do changes next month.
Correct.
So I'm not complaining about what's done is done. I don't like it, but we voted on it and the trigger was already pulled. So it's coming. As long as we get a chance to review it and make sure that the scope is not ridiculous and we can do it for a fraction of the cost, then I want to make sure we have that option still.
Commissioner
Sounds
Klein.
like we do. So.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
So Commissioner Klein, when you went out and, I guess you inspected the building with the architect and knowing just what had been discussed in meetings as far as what needed to be the fix so that the EMS staff could stay in those rooms, because basically there was a door and a window on each one of them was basically it. What did you estimate to be the total cost that this entire project should cost?
Well,
To remedy the problem?
To remedy the problem, there was more work than I originally thought there would be, because of buildings have classifications. They're a type 4A and those kinds of things. And so those are generally fire requirements. So what has to happen is there has to be a 1-hour wall built all the way to the roof. So that's an extra cost. I believe that this should be able to be done for $25,000 or less.
Yeah.
That's what
thought
I
I'd heard you
think.
say that in meetings before, so I was just
Yeah.
confirming if that's still that, based on.
That's still my gut feeling on it, because literally we either have to cut a door or a window, 2 of them in that back wall. There may be some concrete flat work that's required, but there may not be concrete flat work required. It's not necessarily a requirement on an emergency. The 1-hour wall will have to happen, but the work is, and it's an attic area. Right now, they're using an attic area for storage. That may be disallowed depending on what we want to spend on it. There's ceiling joists. Do they have the structural integrity? They do certainly for an attic. Do they have structural integrity for storage? Don't know. That would all be part of the design.
Commissioner Jones.
So what I read into it is that in looking at the simple design, any adders to that would be because of codes that were realized along the way that may need to be upgraded with a new structure. So the ceiling was fine, you know, we needed ingress and egress, but now the ceiling is deemed it may need to be fireproofed also, and the storage above it may or may not be able to be usable. And if it's not able to be used, there's a fee to upgrade that to something where you could use it, or we just don't allow it. So if it breaks out of that range, that's why, because the codes now are being looked at that weren't looked at before when we were just looking at the egress problem and ingress problem, smoke problem.
Based on hearing, architect fees and remediation, let's say $50,000. I'll say conservative right now.
For the whole project?
For the whole project.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I'm expecting higher. I mean, technically, based on your estimates, we have $38,000, but
Yeah.
I'd say $50,000 that this should be remediated. So I'm just kind of setting expectations for what we hear next month. All right, any other discussion on, discussion from Millersville EMS station? We're gonna keep this under old business. All right, item E, I don't think we need to have any discussion here because we've already confirmed what we voted on in February.
Keep it old.
Yeah, we'll keep it on the old business for a report.
That directive went out though, right?
Correct, I mean, we voted on it last month.
He's
Yeah,
gonna
that's what I
do
said
it.
earlier in
Yeah.
the report, so I'm gonna keep item E. All right, new business, item A. Discussion, children are people building property. Do I have a motion for discussion? Motion by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Nunn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we do have some new items on this. We have the resolution. If you look on page 82 to 83, just to
It's a great picture.
discover that there was a resolution in 2014 to allow Gallatin Police to pave and use the lot behind the old health department building, but that is not a lease. The lease, there was evidently a lease executed on pages 84 through 86 that was never voted on by the county commission to anybody's knowledge or understanding, which would invalidate that lease at the outset. I'm not gonna get into technicalities, legalities, or who cares as far as like of somebody being there for 10 years or 11 years. But I'm just saying, technically, this lease was never legally and properly voted on by the county commission. So obviously, the deed and parcel information is on page 87 through 94, just for your information on background for that. And pages 95 through 98 were some emails that just information that was happening and trying to understand. But for the finance part, Mr. Owens and Mr. Shamrock, a lot of department, as far as the nonprofit, who the judges have come in here, spoken on their behalf to want them to acquire this building in some fashion, whether it's selling it to them, whether it's giving it to them, whether it's leasing it to them, whatever we do. I know that there's also discussion of the joint opioid committee of general operations of around, is it $100,000 of potentially appropriating to be able to go towards the purchase of this to reimburse the county, and plus they were, I can't remember the amount of money that they were looking at potentially talking to about offering, but so I know those things have all been discussed on the table. Commissioner Klein, I know that you and the county, the law director had gone out just to inspect the property, just to see what was there, try to figure out whose stuff this was. It's just an exploratory. I know the county mayor made some comments on Facebook that were not accurate about the situation, and I know that you did respond to that, Mr. Klein, to try to set the record straight on this just being an exploratory of just asking questions so we can figure out, because just remember, the judges in the court system and this nonprofit came to us asking to do something in this building because we just put it on an agenda. Okay, it's the county building that's being neglected and sitting here. We need to do something with it. We need to have some action. Let's not just sit here and spin our wheels. Let's make progress and have action forward, positive progress. So this is still exploratory phase, obviously, it's gotten complicated and complex unnecessarily, unfortunately. But silver lining of that is the law offices and the finance department were able to dig in further about this building, the history of this building, as well as with the clerk's office to find out what's happened, what's not happened, and what needs to happen. But right now, I know we will be having this joint meeting. I think that the goal of that is for this nonprofit organization with the court system, the drug court. They're going to come and present to both the opioid and the general operations committee with the request of wanting to utilize this property, since just basically it's just a defunct county property sitting there now. That's just kind of a storage area for, I guess, partly for the Gallatin Police Department for
Impound lot.
impound lot for
And
just junk.
one fire engine. Yeah, there's about 30, is it 30 cars? Eric?
Yeah, I believe that's
About 30 cars.
So these are abandoned vehicles that are just abandoned.
Yeah, they're in a fenced-in area. I
Kind of
don't,
junk, just.
well, they look like they're banged up pretty badly, yeah.
Well, I know there's some motorcycles located in the bay. Were those motorcycles, they police motorcycles or just motorcycles?
Police, I believe.
I couldn't see them well enough through the windows and there's also a Humvee in there.
And then there's a volunteer fire department truck located in the bay. I don't know if anybody has found out who
They're
that
in the building
belongs
or
to.
in the
Do we know what volunteer fire department that belongs
Which
to?
Yeah.
VFD was it?
It was 62. I know it was truck number 62. That's all I remember about it.
Commissioner Jones?
I thought these were in the parking lot. They're in the building.
They're in, yeah,
Yes.
the motorcycles, the Humvee, and the fire truck are inside the building. The wrecked cars are
So
outside.
usable stuff versus stored stuff.
Yeah, the motorcycles look very drivable.
So I guess just to kind of set the pace, I guess there's nothing necessarily need or what action there is to take here, but you're trying to, I won't be here next week. It's helpful for me. And to, I guess, kind of set the stage is that they're going to be asking for some type of acquisition to use this property and some that will need to be presented to the commission to decide how we want to dispose of or let this be used. Obviously, I guess, thank you guys for starting the process, for figuring out whose abandoned vehicles, motorcycles and fire truck and Humvee this is, the Gallatin Police Departments, and according to that resolution that was passed to let them pave it to put this stuff there, and then a lease that was, I guess, improperly executed by the previous county mayor that was not ratified by the county commission per state law, is what happens there if Gallatin needs to still use it? Is there need to be some kind of agreement between the nonprofit if they end up letting them acquire this in some way in the city of Gallatin? So I'm not sure how that proceeds, Mr. Law Director. I don't know if it's even worth discussing at this point, or just if you want to.
I've specifically talked to the city attorney and as best as possible conveyed this is very exploratory. We were just trying to wrap our brains around what exactly we had and what the parameters were. So I've just left it alone. No one's been confrontational about it. I got an email from the chief of police for Gallatin, offering to field any questions that I had. I've just, without direction from this committee, I've chosen to let it lie silent till there's decisions to be made.
Is there anything, I mean, I will put you on the spot as far as this lease that Gallatin believes is valid, and that obviously wasn't validated by the commission, like where does that cause any problems? I mean, that's like.
It's an issue between the commission and the mayor. I believe it could safely be argued the mayor had apparent authority to enter into this, so Gallatin had no reason to believe it was not a valid lease.
Sure, from their
So we
standpoint.
need to operate as if that lease exists.
Sure, and that's no problem, but I just wanted to clarify that, that's how we would be operating that, okay, should something happen, we would need to negotiate something with Gallatin, or if we were to give it to a new tenant somehow to
Or
use this,
sell it.
or sell it, or whatever, that an agreement between a new tenant and Gallatin. would
Well,
need to
there's
be
some
in.
provisions in that lease as well that weren't barred by the length of time on the contract, so I believe it could be ended with notice.
Okay.
60-day notice, but I wasn't even gonna entertain that with them until we really knew what we wanted to do with it.
So I guess after the March 13th meeting, we can figure out what this entity wants to do, potentially what the city of Gallatin is, whether they're, I mean, they want to keep it up there, they want to move it, or if they'd like to renegotiate something. They're just trying to figure out so we can make the best informed decision for all parties to not leave anybody in a lurch and still provide a space for somebody who wants to use it.
Yes, to answer your question, that meeting is the precursor to what we do from there, that special meeting.
Commissioner Jones?
Is there a way that we can notify both parties, the Gallatin Police Department and the nonprofit, to have this discussion outside of this committee? See if there's something they can come up with that the nonprofit may say, we don't even use that space anyway. We don't even plan on using that space. You're welcome to keep it. And it's a non-issue. And I'd like to see that go on without us before we make it an issue. I don't want it to be an issue.
If I'm not mistaken,
Volunteer fire department.
I believe they've already said that they would be okay with that, from the email.
The nonprofit?
Mrs. Griffith has stated if certain portions of the property had been leased, that she would work with those entities. However, if no leases are present, then an issue could arise as the terms may need to be removed from the items may need to be removed from the property, or potential lease would need to be discussed with those entities, not including Sumner County, once the not-for-profit takes possession of the property.
And that's a material part of this is, another reason I'm not jumping the gun is if they're okay with that, they could purchase the property subject to the lease agreement and just bring it all over.
Correct. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of options here, so
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it possible to do some kind of walkthrough with both parties before that meeting to where
I
all
mean,
this could be known?
We've already had 2 walkthroughs that the
No,
county mayor
with-
has unlocked the door for so far, and I'm pretty sure they've already been to one.
But
Am I
with the
mistaken?
Gallatin Police Department privy to that meeting, they could walk through the building and say, we could do without this, but we really need this, and see if they're all amicable to
I
the
think all their
conditions.
stuff's outside.
Yeah, anything that matters is outside there.
I mean, they paved the parking lot. Well, the resolution 2014 was to allow Gallatin to pave county property. And they did it, and they just to store cars there.
I'm talking specifically about the ones that are inside the building on space that they may use.
They're not, I mean, that's not, I don't think it's applicable.
When Mr. Sittler and I were there, it was cleaner than it had been the last time I looked inside when Commissioner Janung and I met with the mayor and several other people, including the group that wants to either lease or buy the property. There are windows in the roll-up doors you can see in.
My whole point though is does Gallatin Police want to keep their vehicles there? Or is the nonprofit okay with that? And
I think that's gonna be
That's
good
not-
questions for you next week, during the joint, committee meeting to ask the nonprofit that, because that's on the 13th and that's what that's for.
but that's why I'm saying Gallatin Police needs to input their opinion on the matter too, because they may say, we can do better with half of that, guys, or they may say, we need every bit of this, and we need to know if you guys are okay with that.
Mr. Law Director, would you mind having somebody, a representative from the Gallatin Police Department come to the meeting, a PRQ meeting? So,
I'll
That-
put an
that'll
offer
probably-
out.
okay, I think that can work.
Thank you.
Commissioner Miller's first.
Okay.
I think that people are here that would make that decision.
Oh, okay.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Hey, second.
All fair side?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hi, I'm Meg. I'm the director at the Summer Prevention Coalition. That is the nonprofit looking to acquire that property. We have actually already had conversations with the chief at the Gallatin Volunteer Fire and Mayor Paige Brown, and we are open to working, continuing those leases if they're valid or not. We want to work with them, let everything remain. So that's where we are on that. We have had those conversations already, should this happen. So.
Perfect, answers all the
I have a
questions.
question for her.
Okay, Commissioner Klein has a question.
The old house that's also on that property, at one point, we spoke about demolishing that and building something for unwed mothers.
Yes, sir. Our plan would be to subdivide and give that property and that house to Recovery Fort Inc., the nonprofit arm of Recovery Fort, and then they are going to seek funding for recovery housing for mothers and children.
I gotta interject if I can. if they're buying the whole property, what they do with it from there is of no consequence.
Correct. That's not our discussion or problem.
Okay, well, because we still have people on the commission who want to see it leased instead of sold. I'm just kind of trying to look forward, because if that were to happen, I mean, if it gets sold, that's one thing. If recovery court were to take the other area, then those cars would have to be moved, because that would be the area where the building for unwed mothers would want to be. It would be where the old house is, as well as where this junk car parking lot is. So it's I just wasn't sure how that worked. So that's still,
That would still be what we would like to do, yes, sir.
Okay.
Is that a
okay.
true statement though? That would have to change the ability for the GPD to stay there?
How it's split up, they would probably want part of that, but that would, then when a house would be built would be dependent on them getting a grant.
Do they know all that? Have you had those
Yes,
discussions?
yes.
And they're okay with the future possibly changing for them?
Yeah, they're good, everybody's on board with.
Sorry. Josh Draper, 1015 Lake Road, Westmoreland. They have actually, so we partnered with Recovery Court on a ton of stuff. They would do that swath going back to the field behind it, and they actually intend to inquire about purchasing that lot too, that I believe is owned by Jonathan and Josie Parsons.
Okay.
But right now it's a vacant lot. They want to have either an easement to it or have that entire property with housing on it. So, yeah, I mean, but GPD in that situation could move the cars over. They're not using the entire space, so they could move it over. But we've had those talks too. So we want to work with everybody. We don't want anybody getting upset, and I know that's happened a little bit already. And we've actually, I mean, we even got a letter of support that we're going to present from the volunteer fire chief. He actually wants to expand what he does if we acquire the building. So we want to work with everybody.
Okay. Does that answer everybody's questions?
Yeah, my intent was just, I don't want to displace people without the need to, without consideration. And it sounds good that they've already talked to them.
We'll bring us back in session.
I have one question before we come back.
For them?
No, for Mr. Sittler.
Okay.
We can come back in
session
session.
now.
Oh,
Bring us
okay,
back in session. Mr. Clark.
And I'm just trying to, because these questions are all gonna come up next week when you're not here. If the commission decided by majority vote that they didn't want to sell it, they wanted to lease it, and so we leased it to them, that building needs some work. Can we create a lease that allows them to do the work where we don't have, everything we do is expensive. They've got a way of doing things that would be a lot less expensive. Can we create a lease, let them do the work on the building, and we don't have to be part of it?
I'll research this, but as far as I know, you can do a land lease and leave the improvements on whoever's doing the lease.
Okay.
But I would strongly encourage, starting here with this committee, that you not do the lease option, either keep it or get rid of it, because there's always the potential. I know I'm the half-empty glass guy, but that you're always setting yourself up for the potential of liability, even just as the owner of the real property.
I agree with you.
And that house, well, if you keep it, needs to be demolished. So there you go.
Yeah, and it, like I say, everything we do gets really expensive.
Right, and it would be better to sell the property and let them do what they want. And then they can use it as a, way to do other things.
Yeah, I've just had several calls by commissioners that say, I don't want to sell it, I want to lease it.
Well, then they can make the improvements, get their hammer out.
Commissioner Jones?
Have we researched, or has anybody in the county researched fair market value
I
for
was getting ready
this?
to ask the same question. So what can we, what's the process for that, Mr. Law Director, as far as assessing, I guess getting a appraisal on the property or an evaluation?
Just be an appraisal.
So
Get an appraisal done.
Does that need to happen before this meeting?
do we need to go ahead and make a motion to move that
That's
budget?
not gonna happen before that.
No, well,
Oh, it could.
So is that, do you have a motion, Mr. Jones?
Well, I don't know if it needed to happen for this meeting, because I don't know what's gonna be discussed in the meeting, so, but I think that is the next step to get it
Set
regardless.
the meeting aside, pretend it's
Yeah.
non-existent.
If you're looking for fair market value to sell the property, then yes, I would suggest we get it moving,
I
but
will
y'all
make
got
that
too many
motion then
things
tonight.
hanging on this. That we need, once that meeting transpires, I think the best course of action is make a decision at that point in time, how you're
So
gonna
wait.
deal with this property, and if we need to do an assessment for fair market value, then we'll go ahead and get that in play. That won't be a problem, it's,
Just costs money.
it will take some time.
Well, can we make the
And it costs
motion to
money.
trigger that after the meeting?
I would
If a
think.
condition, that way that way we're saving some time?
You don't have to make a motion right now, but next week, I mean,
I can't make a motion next week, that's what I'm saying, we could save some
Sure you
time
can.
if it triggers.
Right.
you're part of, it's a joint meeting. You can do.
Okay,
this is
okay,
a
okay, all right,
Regularly, scheduled special call meeting.
okay.
Well, if we made a motion to get an appraisal, we could pass it on to budget, which is happening Thursday night.
You could.
I think you're jumping the gun. I mean.
You think, do you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
I mean,
not even if
that's
it,
like wasting that $5,000. You'd be wasting money on appraisal
Yeah, I
if you
don't
don't
know.
sell
I
it.
don't know
I mean,
what-
that's silly. Wait and see what's gonna happen.
Okay.
even if there's contingencies put on it, you'll say, wait,
Absolutely.
okay,
That's the problem, I don't think you know what the contingencies are yet.
okay.
Any further
I'll wait
discussion?
then,
All right, we're going to,
leave it on old
we're
business.
gonna leave it, I guess,
Okay.
under old business.
All
Because
right.
once I guess my question is, the question is, I guess, for everybody, I'm not sure who to address it to, like, what is the goal of the joint meeting? Is the goal to make a decision there and to push it for the full commission in March, or is it the goal to bring it back, whatever happens in that meeting, to bring it back to Gen Ops back in April to do?
So,
What is our goal here?
so the opioid, the goal was we appropriated in the ability to give them money from opioid, there's a timeline in all this. And so, to bring in the general ops together with us so that they can explain what they're wanting to do, the Judge Blanton's group and then this group, so that that money that has been, they can talk about what they're gonna do, why they're gonna do it, and why they wanna use it, blah, blah, blah. And then we need to decide, basically, do we wanna sell it? I thought that we were gonna sell it, because if we don't, you still have to demolish the old house, because it's a trap, it's a rat trap. And so, the idea was to have all of us together so that everybody understood exactly what they wanted to do and why. They were gonna do a power presentation. The judges will do a power presentation, recovery court, and,
Prevention Coalition?
yeah, prevention coalition. They will both do a power presentation and a proposal at that time of what they wanna do, so that we would all be together at one time to understand it, instead of opioid and then bring it here and y'all don't know what we're talking about. So it was a way to explain it in one place. So that's what that's about.
Sure, and there could be several actions out of that. Could be deferred
Yeah.
until April, until referred back to Gen Ops to then
Yes.
take the information, process it, discuss again at a second meeting.
Correct.
Which I'll probably see that happening, I'll be honest with you, probably,
I
but
never
I'm just-
understood that it was to be, that meeting was to be the decision maker.
Okay,
That
that's
was
what's coming
not that
confirming.
national.
That's not just kind of confirming, because obviously, I think we can go back and
Because it's a
watch.
special meeting.
Correct, we can go back and watch and get the details of what we missed for those who can't be there. That was just trying to set the expectation for this, so yeah,
Thanks for that, Mary, that's really
of
helpful.
bringing this back to, so we're gonna keep this on old business for April, knowing that this will probably go back to Gen Ops.
Okay.
All right. Item B, under new business, Gallatin Health Department Children. Do I have a motion for discussion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Miller.
Second.
By Commissioner Klein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We do have Hal Hendricks here. Hal, my apologies. I'll make a note in the future to put you first on the agenda. And if you don't see it, remind me and we'll change the agenda picture first next time. Is there, you want to just, we'll make a motion to suspend the rules for House. Motion by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Klein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? How, each one explain kind of this.
The 44-week lead time for the chiller means it will be October, November timeframe. I've spoken with Jay with Comfort Group. What do we do this summer when it gets hot and I've got heat in the building and can't cool it down? He's worked out a plan where I can go ahead and purchase some R22, I think, from him, and on the contract, they won't charge us, they'll go ahead and take care of it, and that'll keep us, as the chiller leaks out, we'll replace it, so all summer long, we'll stay cool in the building, and I'll have 49 ladies happy. And,
Yeah, that's a pretty good price for R22
Yeah.
as well. It's a good deal. Before you bring us into session, can we talk about the gov deals?
Is the gov deals, hey, that's the health department issue.
Yes, yeah.
That's fine, yes.
Yeah, because nobody in the county was interested in those generators?
I haven't heard a word about the generators.
2 8 kWs and a 9 kW. The emergency people were not interested.
Nobody said.
That
The
just
sheriff's
blows
department came and picked up all the filing cabinets. They're off there in a autoclave and some medical odds and ends that they were gonna try to put in place, and that was the only.
Because all 3 of those generators work, right?
Mhm.
Those are big generators. I would think that our emergency service people would have wanted those.
How old are they?
I don't know. How old are they?
2010, so they're 15 years, but I don't know what is
New
the.
stuff.
They've been serviced spring and fall every year religiously since day one.
Hal takes great care of his stuff, I can admit.
So,
Any other questions for Hal?
Getting the generator, man.
He's not allowed to by law.
So they're going to gov
I know
deals.
people.
So they're going to gov deals now.
Yeah,
Can't go to
people
gov
have
deals.
contacted me.
Any other questions for Hal on any of those items? All right, thank you, Hal. We're gonna bring us back into session. Do I have a motion for approval on item B?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item C, disposal of county property. Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, second by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Klein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a motion for adjournment.
Adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Okay.
We're getting shorter.
March 13th, 5 o'clock.